Welcome to the Atlas Cast for Building Your Business, presented by best-selling author, speaker, and sales and business growth consultant, Archer Atlas. And here's your host, Archer Atlas.
Hello everyone, welcome to episode 5 of the Atlas Cast for Building Your Business. If you'd like to get the transcripts as well as the show notes for this episode and every episode, head on over to theatlascast.com and subscribe. You'll get transcripts, show notes, and updates when a new episode is posted, as well as 2 free gifts, my best-selling business book, Building Your Business Without Breaking the Bank, and the audio program, Going Up, How to Generate More and Better Leads Quickly and Inexpensively, just for subscribing. Go to theatlascast.com to subscribe now. Okay, this is episode 5 of the Atlas Cast for Building Your Business. In this episode, we're going to go deeper into the ask approach, and we'll cover how to open telephone conversations for maximum attention, rapport, credibility, and results. Just to quickly recap, over the last 2 episodes, we covered the ask approach, which is a non-cold calling, non-telemarketing, even non-sales approach to generating qualified leads using the telephone. Last episode, we dug into the process of this system of what follows a successful ask approach and an overall roadmap for applying the ask approach in your business, bringing you not only more prospects raising their hands for you, which will eventually convert into more new customers and clients for you, but also more sales revenue and more bottom line profits. Before that, we quickly covered an example opener for a successful ask approach, and I gave you some of my background on why I'm someone you should actually listen to and follow when it comes to generating leads and selling on the telephone. If you missed either or both of those episodes, I'd highly recommend going back and listening to them. It's more than worth your while. Okay, so this episode, we're going to run through an ask approach from top to bottom, soup to nuts. Very quickly, an ask approach is simply a non-salesy, non-cold call-y, non-annoying approach to generating qualified leads over the telephone that actually provides value to the prospect and puts you in a much better position to eventually acquire more and better customers and clients and grow your bottom line, and also set yourself apart from everyone else that calls your prospects trying to sell them something. Okay, so the ask approach is all about generating qualified leads. It's worth noting right now that there are 3 and only 3 purposes for a cold call, a telephone sales conversation, or really any sales communication. 1, as we covered, generating qualified leads, as with the ask approach. 2, setting an appointment with a prospect. 3, actually selling something. I've seen a bunch of other sales material out there in the last few years from people that either only have sold over the phone in their nightmares or the last time they'd picked up the phone to make a sales call was decades ago. Again, because it's worth repeating, there are only 3 purposes of a sales call. And furthermore, there can be only one, like Highlander. There can be only one purpose for any one particular call. Well, not exactly. You can downtick a call, like say, go from having your goal being to sell someone or to set an appointment and downtick to generating a qualified lead. But you could never uptick a call. Go from having your goal being generating a lead to selling them. And to be honest, that's not entirely the case either. By all means, sell someone who's ready and willing to buy. Just don't have it as your plan to do more than one, or God forbid none, of the 3 things mentioned. I've seen some of the so-called gurus out there teaching people to start off qualifying and then develop it into some long-winded, drawn-out pitch that takes forever to get to the point or ask for the order and hasn't worked since the 90s when stocks would move up and down 30 points a day and everyone wanted to buy over the phone. Alright, so there are only 3 purposes for a call. Pick one and stick with it. Have one goal and have that be your ultimate goal for the call without straying. Let's jump back in and talk about the ask approach. So the goal of an ask approach is to generate a qualified lead. How do you do that? You do that by first off delivering an opening that is strong, confident, and concise, and most importantly, sets yourself apart from all the other jokesters that call your prospects. And you open up as if you were speaking with a peer, where your expectation is for them to do what makes logical sense and is natural for them to do. Say yes to you. The opening itself cuts to the chase and clearly explains the reason you're calling, what's in it for them, and then makes a request of the prospect. What we're talking about here is a mutual exchange of value. You're offering value to the prospect, and in exchange, the prospect is letting you know they have some interest in what you offer by raising their hand and accepting this offer of value, giving you permission to market to them in the future, and possibly giving you an open ear the next time you speak or communicate with them. Now that we've covered the theory of it, let's dig in with an example. Hello, John. Archer Atlas Advisors. Reason for the call? I want to send you a white paper on customer reactivation and invite you to a webinar titled Keeping Your Clients Yours. Fair enough? So that's one example opening to an ask approach. Short, sweet, and to the point. Your time is valuable, as is the prospect's, so there's no need to waste anyone's time at all. And the fact that you're delivering this pitch in such a way that clearly demonstrates this fact shines through and differentiates you from most every other caller. Notice the lack of any kind of time-wasting platitudinous questions like, how's your day going? How have you been? How's business? Or some other question you and the prospect don't care about answering. Questions like that are not only time wasters, but they are also condescending, annoying, aggravating, disingenuous, and just plain bad business. You don't know the prospect. They don't know you. Asking how their day is going is not going to change that, and a little too forward and can turn some people off. Not that you don't want to turn off more than your fair share of people. You want to weed out people you don't want to work with, especially if you're in a service business or one that involves a close relationship. You want to repel some people, the wrong people. But asking questions like this not only turns some off and gives a bad first impression, but it also conveys that you have time to waste and have no respect for your own time or theirs. You know, it's funny. This position I have on this now is the complete opposite of what it used to be, especially when I was a broker. I'd always ask, how's your day going? And I do so in such a way that I think subconsciously the prospect always wanted to say good, and did say good or some other positive variation regardless of the reality of their situation. No one, especially powerful people, wants to project anything but the best image, and admitting that the day is not going well might run counter to that image they'd want to project. Anyway, even though I see this now as something that absolutely should not be done, I'd always ask. And I thought that a positive answer, which I always got, set the tone for the rest of the call. Getting the prospect to verbalize that their day was going well put them in more of a buying mood. Maybe that's the case for some. I honestly don't know. But I'd wager anything that the numbers are better in not asking. And the numbers, the results, are what's important, right? Okay, so that's what's in, and more importantly, what's not in the opening line. Name, comma, company name, rolling right into reason for the call. One last thing I didn't mention on this. John. Some people think it's a bad idea to address someone they don't know by their first name. I say nonsense. Look, I made my entire living selling stocks over the phone, which is really the hardest thing you can do. Well, probably the hardest thing to sell, especially over the phone, and I did it by calling owners, presidents, and CEOs of Fortune 500 companies by their first name. The bottom line is this. You're talking to a peer, regardless of your or whomever is doing the calling's position in your company. You're talking to a peer. Put that in your mind in every call. Let it be second nature for you. You are talking to a peer. A peer doesn't call a colleague Mr. Jones. So you don't. I'm sure there are some people listening to this right now who'd argue with me to the death on this. But I'd say 100% they are wrong. Calling someone Mr. Jones or Mr. So-and-so puts you in a position below the prospect. That's not a position of strength and not one that gets results. You're a peer, not a supplicant. The one exception to this, I'd say, is when you're speaking to a doctor. They've paid their dues, went through years of schooling, and have earned the right to be addressed by their title. That, and they save lives. Well, if I knew I was talking to a PhD, I'd probably call them doctor too, but that's neither here nor there. Now this goes for the opener, the beginning of the conversation, and the beginning of the relationship. You can't stay at this below level forever though. Not if you want to control the relationship and the purse strings and extract the most amount of money you can from it. Alright, that might have hit another nerve. But you know what? That's the ultimate goal. I don't care what you do, your goal is to extract the maximum amount of money from your clients and provide the maximum amount of value to them. Do you provide a quality good or service? One that makes your clients better off because they've bought from you than had they not? Then it's your job to get them to buy and buy as much as possible to fulfill their wants and needs and leave them off better. So extracting the maximum amount of money from them is the most ethical thing you can do. Okay, back on the topic of doctors. You want to transition eventually from calling them doctor to something that reflects you're their peer, an equal. Two things. One, after the very opener, sometimes I like to use the shortened version doc. Some might think it unprofessional, but it's what I've done and had success with. I'm more concerned with results than professionalism anyway. If professionalism brings in more revenue, then be professional. But never be professional to the point that it gets in the way of earning more money or obtaining any of your goals, like our goal here. Generating qualified leads. Last thing, this works very well. This doesn't necessarily apply to a lead generating ask approach, but it can. It's more when you're selling. But if you've had the doctor prospect on the line for any amount of time and you've been addressing him or her, let's not be sexist, as doctor or doc, then a powerful thing you can do is drop your tone down and address them by name. Then close. Doctor, doc. Michael, this is a phenomenal situation. Listen to me on this. You definitely want to do the 100 shares. Now, it might sound exaggerated or hokey, but this tactic works. I've done it hundreds of times. It works because it's one, something that interrupts their pattern, and two, no one really talks to them this way. Consequently, this is also why your tone, your care for yours and their time, and your addressing any non-doctor prospect by their first name works so well. They're not used to people talking to them like you will. Plain and simple. Most presidents and CEOs, especially at large companies, don't have their underlings addressing them by name, and they certainly don't end down and speak to them in the tone of voice you or your callers will. Alright, that's enough analysis of the first 10 words of the pitch. Well, enough so far. Oh, one last thing. Sometimes it's worth testing not even including your company name in the opening. It certainly cuts down on words and syllables and gets to the point quicker. And the fact is, most of you listening to this right now don't work at companies where simply naming your company provides you any benefit at all. Why not try ditching it? Hello, John. Archer Atlas. Reason for the call? That right there removed 20% of the words, 29% of the syllables, and removed 0% of the benefit. Look, your time is important. Their time is important. Guard it and protect it. This kind of reminds me of that Will Smith movie, The Pursuit of Happiness, where he realized he could make a lot more calls each day if he simply didn't say goodbye. Now, I don't know about going that far, and the fact is, you probably don't want to spend the majority of your day on the phone to where this little time shaving adds up to something significant. But it's worth saying that if you could shave off anything that doesn't advance you to your goal, then by all means, shave it. Be economical with your language. Don't use 20 words, 20 syllables, or 20 seconds to make a point that only takes 10. Any words, syllables, or time you add to a pitch needs to earn its keep. It's got to justify its existence with increased results or be gone. Alright, two more points on opening without saying your company name. 1. It automatically builds some intrigue and mystique and can elevate you in the prospect's mind, even if it's only subconsciously. Who's this Archer Atlas guy that didn't state his company's name? He must be important. I'll listen a little closer. 2. It builds some curiosity. Well, that was covered by point 1 a bit, but here it is a little deeper. If instead of coming to the conclusion that you must be important and be listened to closely because you didn't state your company name, if instead of coming to that conclusion, the prospect simply wonders what company you're from, if that's the case, you've just bought yourself some time and interest. If the client verbalizes this and actually comes out and asks you what company you're from, you just gave yourself an opening and bought even more time and interest and an open ear. No one asks questions they don't want to know the answer to. You've just hooked them into intently listening to the next thing you have to say. And believe me, you better not squander what you've just bought with that curiosity. Answer the question. Roll into what you have to say and then ask for the order. Now in this case, And in any ask approach, the order isn't a sale, but it's still a request that needs to be asked for. So roll with it and close. John, I'm with Archer Atlas, and there's not a doubt in my mind you should meet with me. Take the 100 shares, or whatever you want. In this case, you really haven't gotten to anything yet. You haven't shown any value, so it would be best to just roll into your original opening or the lines that come next. John, I'm with Atlas Advisors, and the reason for the call? I want to send you a white paper on customer reactivation and invite you to a webinar on keeping your customers yours. Which address would you like me to send that white paper to? That was an assumed close there, where I assumed the answer was yes. We're going to get into that more in some later episodes. Okay, looks like we're running out of time here for this episode. Next time out, we'll continue where we left off and go deeper into this. I know we've spent 3 entire episodes on this ask approach and have only analyzed 10 lines of it. But I promise that 1, this is time more than well spent. This ask approach can be the cornerstone of your lead generation efforts and something that has a dramatic impact on your bottom line. Or it could be something you use that provides an additional stream of qualified leads to your business, supplementing what you're already doing. Regardless, this is something worth covering thoroughly. And 2, we will spend the entirety of the next 1, 2, or however many episodes it takes to cover this correctly. I won't leave you in the lurch on this or leave you hanging. Plus, this just might be a good way to keep you listening. And like the ask approach, it will benefit the both of us, leaving all parties involved better off having experienced it. You'll come back and hopefully pick up some things that can have an impact on your bottom line, and I get the satisfaction of having helped you, even if we never met. So with that, tell your friends, colleagues, employees, sales team, and anyone you know that could benefit from this podcast. Please, I'd really appreciate it. Also, be sure to leave a review for it, either at iTunes or on the podcast site, theatlascast.com. Oh, and while you're there, be sure to subscribe and claim your free gifts. One being my best-selling book, Build Your Business Without Breaking the Bank, and the other being the audio program, Going Up, How to Generate More and Better Leads Quickly and Inexpensively. You'll also get show transcripts, notes, and videos of the podcasts. Just go to theatlascast.com. All right, one last order of business before we part. I'm offering my latest course on the Ask approach to listeners to this podcast for only $7. It's a phenomenal program that actually sells right now on udemy.com for $99 and has around 1,000 students who've already done what you're about to do and bought it. Honestly, it's worth at least 10 times that too, at least. As a listener, you can get it for only $7. Just go to theatlascast.com/offer. That's theatlascast.com/offer. OFFER. And look, if you're listening and you've enjoyed this episode, you'll love this program, honestly. Just go to theatlascast.com/offer and get it for what? 93% off? Just $7. Alright, last thing here. The window for this is closing fast, and this isn't any kind of false scarcity. I'm holding a private coaching group that lasts 6 weeks for a very, very limited number of people. It's free. Well, not entirely free. For members of the group, I'm giving them a year of my Marketing Made Easy newsletter for joining. All I ask is they pay the postage for the newsletter. 12 times 49 cents, just $5.88. Now, I'm doing this to weed out the tire kickers and the people that just won't show up to the group meeting. We meet online, by the way, so no need to worry about location. If you're listening to this, you probably have the ability to show up. So that's it. Like I said, it's for a limited number of people, very limited. I'm keeping this intentionally very small. So if you're interested in growing your business by working alongside other like-minded people in non-competing businesses, and you'd like my newsletter that I usually sell for $497 a year, you can do both by just paying for the postage of the newsletter, $5.88. That's it. I don't have to sell this too hard, and I wouldn't want to. I'm keeping the group small for a reason. If this sounds like something that might be for you, just go to QandAFriday.com. That's Q, the word and, A-N-D, A, Friday.com. I'm really looking forward to this group. All right, that's it for episode 5 of the Atlas Cast for Building Your Business. Next episode, we'll go deeper on the Ask approach and everything that follows those first 8 to 10 opening lines. See you then.